Hi everyone, it's Lynn from Inside Knowledge, and this is the third video in a short series looking at breath and body, which is the primary theme of the first course under the umbrella of Embodied Resilience. So in the first video, I gave you a summary of my morning routine. In the second video, I talked about how I manage my usage of social media. And in this video, in the next two videos, I will go into a little bit more detail about each individual aspect of my morning routine. So I talked about the fact that I do a mindful movement sequence, and that sequence takes around about 20 to 30 minutes to work through. So in the course, we do an audio guide because we like you to do the sequence with your eyes closed. There's also a PDF summary to help you if you're not exactly sure what position you should be in. The idea being that eventually you can stop listening to the audio and you can just use the PDF to remind you of the sequence. And eventually, like me, you should be able to run through the sequence without any guidance at all, just from your memory. So the sequence, as I said in the first video, is a traditional yoga sequence that's been adapted by Bridget McAllister, who is a yoga teacher here in Tauranga, and she adapted it by adding in a few extra movements that made sense to her. And then I have been practicing daily, and I've added in a few extra movements as well. So the sequence starts at the toes. You sort of curl your toes, crunch your toes down, and then you stretch them out. And so one is on the in breath, one is on the out breath. And you do some stretches on your foot and your ankle and your knee and your hips and your waist. And then you go into your shoulders and your hands and your wrists and your neck. And the sequence as it stood was working through, but I just added in a few static stretches. And the reason I did that is because I noticed I had a bit of tightness that was stopping me getting the full range of movement into the joint. So I noticed, for instance, we do a knee rotation, and the knee is a hinge joint, so it doesn't have a lot of circular rotation, but we sort of trace little ovals with our toe. And I noticed at the top that it was a bit tight because I have quite tight hamstrings. So I just included hamstring stretch before that, a static stretch. And the same with the hips. The hips are a niggly part for me, so I do a hip opening stretch there just to warm up into the area. And I've added in a twist because I really like a twist. I've added in the bridge position where you sort of roll up onto your shoulders with your hips in the air and your feet underneath, and then I slowly roll down each vertebrae at a time because I have a niggly upper back, and that's a really nice way to just roll through my back and warm up my spine. So I guess the main point of the mindful movement sequence, apart from limbering up, is to get to know your body. And so that means that every time you do a particular movement, you allow a pause and you feel what it feels like. Does it feel different? And it generally does feel different. It might tingle or it might feel more open. If you've done one side and not the other, you'll notice a difference. So it's about becoming embodied and becoming aware of how your body feels with the different movements. And then the other aspect is becoming comfortable with knowing what your body wants and giving your body what it wants. So I know, hey, my body right now at this particular point in the movement sequence wants to do a twist. And to do a twist, I think, the idea is to retain the basic form of the sequence because there's very good reasons why it's in that order. But your body best of all, and so there's no reason why you can't add in movements that feel good. And that just sort of plays out in all parts of life. You start to actually move, you start to feel comfortable in your body, and you start to trust that you have the kind of relationship with your body where it's a two-way communication. And I just really enjoy it for all those reasons. So that's a bit more detail. Obviously, if you want to do the practice, if you take up a course, you can get a bit more detail, or if you really become interested in yoga, then I recommend going to a local yoga centre and doing some beginner classes, because practicing with others is a really great way of establishing a daily practice. Thanks so much for listening. In the next video, I will be talking about the power of the breath.